Is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns
What's your sign say in the background?
For the record, I decided the topics
what about second breakfast?
And the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the two candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now as we vote the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
Wow, you're significantly behind.
Let me see if
they already started talking.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
About the Supreme Court.
All right, I'll tell you what. Let's try a different channel.
Yeah, I'm on CNN.
Okay. Just give me a sec.
Yeah, talking about Justice Barrett.
Yeah, even if I go to CNN, though, it'll probably be delayed by a couple seconds at least.
We just missed that weird exchange between the two of them. That was it.
Oh.
Oh, Biden talking to.
What? There we go.
They wouldn't even think about not doing it. The only difference is they try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up.
But now we're only a couple seconds behind.
Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election.
Biden's already doing his retort.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice, she seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing is on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens?
He's kind of going all over the place.
Yeah, he is. Not answering the question.
Again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same.
I'm going to get a coffee. Tell me if he does anything interesting.
And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act.
All right.
It was 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
All right. There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years.
That doesn't make any sense.
So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the
election's
100
already
million people,
started.
Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to
Go
socialist. You're
ahead.
going to socialist medicine.
We're now into
All right, here we go. Socialist. That's the attack line.
open discussion. Yes, I
He's a
agree.
socialist.
Vice President.
Number one, he knows
Those are gonna
that
be the
what I
keywords,
proposed.
socialism
What I
and-
Yeah, socialism. I heard that on CNN today.
and
Not strong
Obamacare.
enough.
What's that Republican that's on CNN? He's like, well, he's going to be a cheerleader for the Socialist Party.
23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your party
is-
has said.
that is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
That is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you. Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had
Pre-existing
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
infected. You would have been
Mr.
much
President,
later, Joe.
Biden would have
President,
lost 2 million.
Mr. President,
We're talking about 2 million.
Who lost 2 million?
We are going to talk about COVID.
Biden lost 2 million.
No, he
Let
said if
me
Biden was
finish.
president,
The
he would have
point
lost
is
2 million
that
people.
the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're
on the ballot.
Holy shit, he's still talking?
in the court.
Yeah.
Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a minute?
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I don't know.
that.
You letting him run over you, dude.
I would
Yeah, dude, be tough, Joe.
unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So
Terrible.
on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr.
Yeah,
President,
Chris
the
Wallace is not
Supreme
gonna be
Court
able
will
to weigh in
hear
Trump.
a case a week after the election
He may call
in
him
which
out
the
on
Trump
stuff, but he's not gonna
administration,
be able to
along with
stop him
18 state attorneys
going on
general,
and on.
are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, end Obamacare.
You don't care about these debates. It's all about how tough you look, man.
question, sir.
Yeah.
And not making any big faux pas.
The last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Yes, I have.
rid of the
Straight
individual-
lies,
That's
man.
probably the most.
Individual mandate, which was a
That
big
is not a
chunk of
comprehensive plan.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst
I
part of
just asked,
Obamacare.
sir,
Chris,
you're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
What are you debating now? You debating the.
Individual mandate was the most.
He's going to debate the moderator most of the night, not Joe.
Good. Biden should step in at the end to clear up. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. He doesn't know what he's.
For health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million
No, this
people
is awful.
because you were very
Sorry,
late.
guys.
It'd be 2 million people. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. CBS is still going.
5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump?
Why is he looking at him like that? That's kind of weird.
Debating you, not him, but
I'm
that's
just trying to find a quicker, a more live
The point
stream.
is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade.
How's that?
That's on the ballot as
Yeah,
well
good.
in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
you don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot.
I-
Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
I don't think so.
Know her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't know
don't
her
know.
view.
Well, all
Should have
right.
been, I don't think,
all right. Let's
full
talk.
stop.
We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time.
They both look kind of stupid
He's
here.
like, Yeah, neither of them looks good.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear
This is a draw, triple win automatically. The de
the
facto.
election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask
Go ahead.
my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace
got it. It's in my
Obamacare,
back
but you
pocket.
have never in these 4 years
I'm gonna show
come
you
up with
next
a
week.
plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Of course I have.
Individual
Finish, I'm going to give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
Obamacare. That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the
I-
worst
I
part of
didn't ask you,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe.
The
The individual mandate was the most
Mr. Vice
Does
President,
not want to actually debate.
Right. So Joe's now trying to see how bad this guy could look, but you still got to throw punches.
question, and then you can answer.
Go
your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace
Dude.
I don't know
Obamacare.
what's happening live because we're behind, but
How
You
far behind?
signed
I
a
can't tell anymore because
executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my
You not him. That's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something.
same thing we just had before, isn't it?
Symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage. First in the US.
God, I want to make
Mr.
sure
President, can you let him finish, sir?
he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
There you go. There's a little zinger. All right.
wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the manifesto.
whole idea-
Let him-
There is no
This is a mess.
manifesto, number
Please let
one.
him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left.
You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
Absolutely agreed
folks, do you
to,
have
and
any
under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Wow.
socialized medicine.
Mr. President,
tell you what,
Finally. First thing.
for any
That's
help
the
for
stuff
Now,
that
put some facts behind it.
That's the stuff that's
because
going to get under
his-
Trump's skin.
because
Start
he
calling
in
him
fact
clown
already
and making
has
fun of
cost 10
him,
million
laughing at
people the
you.
health care that they had from
think
their
Van Jones
employer
called it.
because of his
Van Jones
recession.
said it earlier
Number
on
one.
CNN.
Number
He's
two,
talking about
there
if you
are
wanna get under his
20
skin,
million
you gotta
people
laugh.
getting health care.
$70,000 hairstylist
He
over
wants
here.
to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them
Number
better
three.
health care at a much lower price
But-
because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know
By
how
the
to
way,
do
you
that.
already
fixed
He
it.
has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but
Right
Right
probably
to the camera, Joe. Right to the camera.
Yeah, both the people.
and it's too expensive.
let the president, go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good.
running.
We made it better, and I had a choice to make very
We
early.
made it better. We didn't do anything.
This is a Republican guy who was telling me the one thing that he did praise about Obama was Obamacare. And I'm like, well,
And that destroyed.
we're still voting Trump.
Call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay.
My people run it.
Well,
That's what he
and I just had a meeting with them. They said
I
they
let my people run it badly.
run Obamacare. It's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his-
doesn't.
that's what his
So
people
we
said.
do want to get rid of it. Chris, we want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I have
that's
to, I
cheaper
have to
and
give
better.
you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please.
This is the hardest part about actually debating him is he won't
has no
answer
plan for
anything
healthcare.
beyond his talking
If they come
points.
make up something else and you guys spend time to fact check them before you get to your point.
He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have
against-
one final question for you.
Sure.
Mr. Vice
Look how
President.
smart he did the.
Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here. If Senate Republicans
We're off topic, Chris.
confirm Justice Barrett,
Wait till Anderson Cooper
there has
comes
been
in.
talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court.
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question.
Why would you answer that
because
question?
the question
You wanna put a
is,
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is,
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your
All
list?
right, gentlemen, I think
I don't agree with that.
we have
I'm not going to give a list.
we have
Oh,
that.
man.
We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really
What did I
a
miss?
productive segment, wasn't it?
Yeah, dude. I know you're hard.
People understand, Joe.
They should.
No, that's the problem, though. He's
The second
bringing you down to
subject,
his level.
COVID-19, which is
I
an
miss
awful.
Hillary in this debate.
Let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more
Of course, the
than
Democrat base is going to love
1,000
it.
people have died. Even
Swing
after
voters.
a vaccine, experts say that it
Just as
could
bad as
be
the other guy.
months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck.
Uninterrupted.
200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you
Use his
are
words, man. Just use his own words.
why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting
I like
that
that.
the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us.
Yeah,
and
he
what
did. I forgot about that.
he then did nothing.
That's
He
during the whole tariff bans and shit.
plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
just too
March
much.
exactly
it's so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get,
Bunker boy.
of course, and go in the
Sand golfing.
Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to
You
you,
have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China.
2 billion.
It never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know
Pass
how
the
many
blame.
people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count.
Notice Trump is talking to Biden, and Biden is talking to the
I
camera.
closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should
unrelated
have
to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No, just
Wait a
sir,
minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact,
Not Cuomo, not all the big states.
necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get
Just
sick.
gonna pass that fake
People
info
are dying.
along.
We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't
Black
done,
Panther. He goes,
that's
weeks.
because
I don't need weeks. I just
no matter
need
what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic recession.
Made a-
Far
there
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
You made a
by the way.
point. Let him answer.
And there was no one, we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID?
Oh no!
How
Look
many
at
of you
that.
had a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them. You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
Now he sounds like a baby.
By the way,
Months later.
his own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up, he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. But we trust the scientists.
You don't
love
trust
it.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask.
I give it right now, 2-1.
Future first,
Standing
President
count.
Trump, you have repeatedly either
I need
contradicted
a
or
card.
odds with some of your government's own top scientists.
three.
Week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be
Healthcare,
summer
and we did.
before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slowey, the
Injustice. It was 3 rounds. Injustice.
Okay,
for
round
the
4.
same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people
I'm
like
not publishing that at all.
it is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr.
I
Slowey,
disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. But he could also be much. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
he talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available.
I was winding up debating him more than.
Possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be
Talking about when
after
it's
that.
generally available. not
Well, we're going to
Or
deliver.
watching this and going, I do not want to moderate the next one.
Yeah,
We
right.
have our military
No,
that
Rachel Maddow does.
and they can do 200,000
Oh,
a
she's
day.
gonna have a field
They're
day
going
with
to be
This is
delivering
the same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
I was sarcastic.
it.
You know that. That was said sarcastic.
200,000 people dead.
Is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year, but the distribution of that
2021.
will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out.
Yes.
If we get the vaccine, and pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public
You have it in the next 3 minutes check.
they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight.
3 minutes check and a vaccine in the
Senator
mail.
Harris goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying you
no,
can't trust the scientists.
No. You can't trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She
the
said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled.
She did say that. He has no clue what he's talking about.
try to do, but there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not, they're the people, and by
I
the way.
spoke to the
in fact,
scientists that are in charge.
By the way.
They will have the
and
vaccine very soon.
do you believe for a moment What he's
I like
telling you,
this part. Look at the camera.
all the lies,
Keep talking to the people. That's
about
right, Joe.
the whole issue relating to COVID. He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot die. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use it.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's
You're a
nothing.
great clown.
47 years you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
Let's have this debate out in the street.
The charge of what I was put through. I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
You see,
And
he's
it's
We're going
going
to get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast. Look
Okay.
forward to
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that to
them
Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Okay?
Nancy Pelosi.
Just for a minute.
Tell it to
You shush for a minute.
By the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't
Such a
even.
child.
The Republicans won't meet in the Senate. And he-
Cuomo had a plan for New York. That's working.
I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country. And I want to keep it open. And we did a
he
great
just
thing by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second.
Will you shut up, man? Is trending.
Yeah.
He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we've got elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very
Diabetes.
vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania,
An hour and a half of this.
that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of
That's
the
why
reasons-
Hillary was so great. She went right at her point, and
election.
she made that change.
Because it's a political
Right, Hillary came in like a plastic fighter at a debate.
not doing well that are shut down.
And Mike Tyson.
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of
By the way, this must be the Fox News.
Are you questioning
No, I
the
think masks are
efficacy
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean,
Worse and worse as we get to CNN, Anderson Cooper.
that's going to, when I think,
Rachel Maddow.
right, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from me. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say
Vice
this.
President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look,
Answer that.
way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The
But
Congress.
I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
I
said,
hate the whisper. I really do.
No serious person said the opposite.
they've
No
also said, well, look at,
serious.
all right, I
look
wanna
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He did
opposite.
not
I
say
wanna ask
the
you-
opposite.
Did not say that.
Are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said,
He's talking like way back in February or March. He said something.
Because
Back when 15
your
people
different
were-
approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed.
He's not looking sleepy.
Outside.
He's not looking sleepy. I was afraid of being sleepy.
Agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much
Trump's
smaller
nervous. He's got the body language. He's
Well,
hopping,
nobody will show up.
swinging.
people with.
Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not?
I'm just at your rally.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you not
I've done
worried
a great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports.
Yeah,
We use
right.
airports.
Are you not?
Look at my face.
Well, so far, we have had no problem
Incredulous look.
outside. That's a big difference according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean,
A friend of mine texted me, come get your boy Trump.
and Jim Strickland has 3 people someplace.
By the way, did you see
That's right.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no,
James,
no,
what happened to Keith?
stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested?
Missing all the good stuff.
I'm way far away from those other
I
people.
want some Keith commentary.
That's what he
on
said.
this debate.
I can't. I'm going to be
I
okay.
should invite my
He's
sister.
not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no
Cheek
negative
to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect, and we've had 35, 40,000
All right.
people
you want
at
to
these rallies.
just
Yes.
quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encourage them not to.
All right.
And he's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
Nobody cares.
gentlemen? Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery.
That was a nice way to
I
put
can
that.
say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of
Coming up with fake numbers.
4,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look at these governors, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others,
exactly help
you got to
when-
open these
when
states up.
governors-
It's not
when the
fair. You're
governor of
talking about
Florida
almost
saying,
it's like
"Oh,
being
you
in
don't have to
prison.
wear masks
And
if
you
you
look
don't
at
want
what's going on with
Yeah, but
divorce.
he's going to ignore
Look at
that.
what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the
What?
difference is
You said
millions of
K-shape?
billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait,
There it is.
It's the wrong state.
Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those.
How did Bush leave office with more jobs?
Those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea is insisting
Clinton had a
that we
good
go
economy
forward and open when
left.
you have almost half the
they
states in
can't-
America
they-
with a
I don't think
significant
that's accurate
increase
unless-
in COVID deaths and COVID
because-
cases in the United States of America.
You
And
got
he
to
wants to
remember
open it up
that
more.
doesn't
Why does
pass
he want to
small
open it up?
The
Why
oil
doesn't he
crash
take care of the
really
American? You
started
can't
to
fix
affect
the
everybody
economy until
after
you
the
fix the
election.
COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better
Carter, nah.
in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open?
Abraham Lincoln,
A lot of money to open safely. You know, they were
Schools
going
are opening. That's the problem.
teachers and school students masks.
partial.
Then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national
the
emergency.
president during the Great Depression.
Small
Depressed
businesses.
yards. Harding?
No, they're closing.
Yeah.
1 in 6 is now
Hashtag
gone.
Biden.
We ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right, your time is up, sir. We are going to get to.
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools.
He's gonna talk
People want
anyway.
their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New
Guy's
York.
gonna
It's
take
so
another-
sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town, and I'm not sure it can.
No, it's not.
People want their places open. They want to get back to their
Here,
people,
so many people out.
but they want their schools open.
People want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back
James, you still
football.
got it
By the
up
way,
on
I
your
brought
TV?
back Big Ten football.
Uh-oh.
It was me,
Still got the
and
debate on your
I'm
TV?
very happy to do it.
Dude, I wish Joe had stats on the number of kids that have gotten sick.
Now, did you delay it?
Gentlemen, we're going to get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income
That makes
tax
me smart.
each of those years.
Makes me a smart guy.
I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income
Don't forget,
taxes
meanwhile, he
each
was
of those
getting-
2 years?
I paid millions of
Stormy
dollars
Daniels,
in taxes,
$10,000 a
millions
month.
of dollars
What was it?
of income tax.
During that time?
And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
return.
$38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
return.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's
Hashtag
finished.
show
You'll
us
see
the
it. You know, if
return.
you want to do, go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the
You can
assets
see that's the lie right there.
and we have
Test
a
it out.
I built
Sir,
a great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific
You just
question.
name a random website for somebody to open.
I understand all
But-
that.
but let me-
No, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it.
I'm-
And you'll get to
When?
see it. But let me just
Shalom?
tell you, Chris, let me just say something that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a
Oh, the
tax.
rest of us are stupid,
Give
huh?
us all these privileges for
we're
depreciation
idiots for paying tax.
and for
How dare we?
tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a
Okay.
massive, which by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now the man got fired
no,
right after that happened, but
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want
That's actually not good.
Tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax
Okay.
cuts and make sure that we
It's
invest
okay.
in people who in fact need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you
Ask
do it
them-
over the
no,
last
wait,
25
no,
years?
let's-
Because
I
you
wanna-
are
Why didn't
president.
you do it over
Because
the
you
last-
are president screwing
no,
things
no.
up.
You were a senator. and
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of
we're
your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
ma'am.
president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes
Yeah, that
on
was a short segment.
more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of
Is that
a
the entire economy section?
is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
Well, by the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you were vice president
because,
with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
Right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never boomed.
The economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me
wait, no,
finish.
Mr. President, let me pick
Does
up on
not say that he trailed on the Obama
your free
economy.
market approach, lower
He's missing that.
taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since
Wallace is better at this than Joe.
It was the slowest recovery. Also,
Yes, because obviously he
down here, when
tax
turn on the lights,
jobs, Biden is.
they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means
We
jobs.
don't care about the stock market.
If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here, they'll leave for
hardly any
other
companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a
Have it-
depression, the likes
that-
of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
He
booming.
blew
There
it.
it is.
He
Finally.
blew it.
Booming.
It was a-
it was the weakest
Well,
Well,
recovery
sir,
since
is it fair to
1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact, there was
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris, wait.
Number two.
Chris,
Number three.
They said it would take, no, you were number two.
No.
Chris, they said it would
This
take a
guy-
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not do that.
standard fare.
I'm the guy
He
that
totally gave up on
automobile industry.
manufacturing.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was
Bring
asked,
back automobile industry.
Chrysler and General Motors, we brought them back right here in the state of Ohio.
Everything Joe says is basically
blew it.
Obama wasn't there.
Blew it.
I was asked to
In
do it.
fact, they're going.
Ohio
People have short-term memory. No one's gonna remember that.
Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
It's not-
He came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, and went to
They're
Ohio.
not having
And they
one.
didn't come in.
Everybody's taking what Trump's saying at face value.
Look at what he's actually done.
Biden acts
He's
like,
done
you know,
very
Obama
little.
wasn't even
His
there.
trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out,
It's not really going well
he
for
takes
both of
out
them.
billions of dollars,
Mentioned family.
billions of dollars to manage
Oh,
it.
no.
Millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while
Come on,
we're
he
at,
opened the door, Joe.
just out of curiosity, The mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is-
did he do with Burisma
None of
to
that-
deserve
Wait, wait,
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
a
is
question,
true.
let him answer. If
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really? He didn't
totally,
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please.
totally
You've asked a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait,
let's
he didn't
talk-
get $3.5 million, sir?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5
President,
million.
It is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
It's like a kindergarten Zoom
it's an
class.
open discussion,
Yeah,
please.
right.
It's a fact.
Well,
There's- it
you
is
have
not.
raised an issue. Let the
been
Vice
totally
President answer.
Discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report-
$183,000
there was
a month
When-
with
when
no
they-
experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no
my
job.
son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Mr.
the only guy
President,
that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because
allies,
everything's-
by the World Bank,
Sorry.
by everyone
Hang on,
has
hang on one
discredited.
second. Sorry, guys.
Matter of fact, even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified.
Biden softened his response.
So let me ask you this, Joe.
Henry,
No, no, go ahead, Mr.
Trump family now should be open game.
He needs to stop defending his son and start attacking
Under oath in his
the Trump children.
administration said, I did my job and I did it very well.
I don't know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't do a
Well,
good
here's
job. With you,
Go ahead. You get the, wait a minute. You get the final word. Mr.
well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me. This.
Hey, let me
this
just
person.
say, Joe,
No. Mr. President,
I like that now.
Simply,
why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million from
It-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
my
already.
family,
No, let him-
my
let-
family
already
lost
wrote-
a fortune by coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's such a.
they're right
that's
here.
Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost.
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family.
They
The
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should-
all right,
Not about here.
that's the end of the segment. We're moving on.
It didn't
This is
take.
the worst. This is the absolute
It's a
worst.
very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
I-
He
I-
stood
I-
up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine.
No, sir.
With a big
Wallace.
That
rid of
is
the Russians.
You know what? You're
absolutely not
stop.
true.
Tape
You're
doing it.
You're going to
Not
have
true.
gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise my voice,
he's
but it
on
seems
tape.
to be. Why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
That's a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead.
Oh, don't give him that opening.
The country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Good luck with that.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than.
plenty.
No, less than.
He's a kid, man. This guy's worse
than you
than
want.
11-year-old.
The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country?
This is an
Gold,
electric
man.
move. This is like a
President Biden, you go
electrically
first.
charged question.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the
I hear Joe say
Constitution.
Black Lives Matter.
And we have never walked away from trying to require equity
I wanted
for
to
everyone,
ask Trump
equality
about
for the
that.
whole of America. But we've
Wait for the
never,
last
we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people looked like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever
Finish
said
the
anything
statement.
like that.
Finish the
It
statement.
is who's
Now,
2
second,
minutes, sir.
second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said, all we have to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African-American community.
So I didn't say it.
Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with racism?
He did a crime bill. 1994.
He was going to bring that up.
Super predators, African Americans are super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You called them
Bush was high.
predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the is concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida.
That doesn't help you. Doesn't help you.
I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today, and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think
they do. That's not a surprise.
You even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left.
It's an opening, Joe.
Chicago. If you look at any place you want to look, Seattle. They heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the
Trump go first and then have
justice could easily apply.
They're giving him a big opening to just lay what he wants out there.
There is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out.
We're going to work this out.
The way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor.
It'd be nice if you
Don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right,
What is peaceful
President-
protest? When they run through the middle of a town
President Trump-
and burn down your
President Trump,
stores and kill people all
President
over the
Trump,
place?
that
and
is
you say
not
peaceful
peaceful
protest?
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not, but
asking-
you say it is.
I did
President
not
Trump, I'd
say
like to continue the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment.
That was a bad answer.
Come
That
on.
was
Your administration
Trump won that round.
agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
is radical,
and he would know.
What is
Oh, it was
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had
He
no
doesn't want to say white.
of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of
They
dollars.
told him not to say white.
Biden, you got to get this one right.
And
Come
frankly,
on.
very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that
No,
to
you gotta hammer him down.
back
Make him
to
say
the
white
core
people.
values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm
No
not going to
one-
allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's
Oh,
the racist.
you just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people
Really?
who have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color.
That's
In
his
fact,
example, is looking down on Irish Catholics.
This country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism
Vice
in America.
President.
Trump's face right now, but for a different
During
reason.
the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason that the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you
it
in
and a
favor
little
of
bit
law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law and order.
Loses
Law
left.
and
Let
order.
him, let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more in ours.
All right, we're now,
is president of
Mr.
the
President, you're going
United States
to,
of America.
Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And
we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200% crime. It's-
Throwing out percentages out there.
and he doesn't want to say law.
7 Kelvins.
You'll lose his radical left supporters, and once he does that, it's over with. But if
5
he had
gigawatts of crime.
they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would
way-
be gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone.
You got to hammer him on this. Make him
Like,
say
you
what the
never-
suburbs
Unless-
gone means.
Chris Wallace is throwing you the softball.
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal
There
to
it
do it.
is.
That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the
He used up his time. He
the
did something.
Biden, Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish.
Funding police.
What does reimagining policing mean? And do you support the Black Lives Matter call for
Woo! There we go.
look, what I support is the police having the opportunity they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevention.
talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking.
That's
He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Would you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported
Black
you.
Life Matters.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
Name one
folks,
law enforcement group that came out and
I think,
supported
gentlemen, I think I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't
role,
think there
and
are any.
I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots.
No, they
Mr. Vice President,
Stop it.
you say that people who commit crimes should be held.
He's softball to Trump here.
The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now. Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it.
But you've never called for the people, the leader. Excuse me.
Such a failure.
The leaders in Portland and
Losing these obviously this round is going to
the
be a
National
strange.
Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact,
guys know what
take
else-
care of it
what
if he
other
just stay
topics we
out of the
have
way.
tonight?
Oh, really?
Here-
Oh, really?
Another 52 minutes.
The
let me see
killer
what
of a young man in the middle of the street, and they shot him. And for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
President
President
do
Trump,
anything. I
he's
had to send in
interrupted.
the U.S. Marshals. They
President
took
Trump,
care of it.
go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help us cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said.
She said that.
I don't-
And so here's the
All right.
Fact check that.
point is that that's what he is.
Fact check that.
He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in
Right
and
on
talking
time,
to
buddy.
people and saying, let's get everybody together.
Wait, why am I on video?
What's he do? He just throws gasoline in the fire constantly, and every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
I
criticized.
have to answer his.
You have repeatedly.
Wait,
You have
just 1
repeatedly. No,
second.
you've been talking
You
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would
no,
love to
you know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it.
You
No,
know what?
sir. No, sir.
Very quickly.
We can do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
What are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what.
Stand by.
Stand back and stand by.
Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a left-wing
Go ahead,
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what his
It's an idea.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
we're,
then,
gonna, we're done, sir.
Everybody-
we're moving on to the next. We're moving.
No, this is bananas. This is pure fuckery, yo.
It is. It's been nuts this whole time.
This is pure fuckery, yo. Like,
Gentlemen, we're now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you're the-
Biden.
yo,
They'll overthrow
James,
you.
remember when you was asking me about like, oh, you should go into politics? This is, yo, I'd go over and punch him in his
It is
mouth. yo.
generally a referendum on his record.
Then it would
I'd
be
be
live
so-
sports
I'd
and
be-
be on Hulu.
Yo, dude, I'd be so frustrated. Like, this is so frustrating.
Mighty compare
Like,
me.
one person trying to debate, and the other one is a 5-year-old.
Looking at both of your
I think
records,
Wallace is trying to debate here.
why should voters elect you
Yo,
president?
it's like trying to do. It's like trying to do debate the dude.
Because they're
What's his name? McMahon from WWE.
Oh, Vince McMahon.
in a period of time.
Yeah, Biden is debating Vince McMahon.
You saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done
That virus, it looks like this is a closing
the
argument.
greatest economy in
It
history.
sounded like it's about. I thought like it sounded like it was like about to be
Everything
the
was
end.
going. And by the way,
Yeah, he name checked Hillary.
people were calling me for the first
Or
time
it's
in
just,
years.
maybe is Chris Wallace just over it? Like this shit is pointless.
Rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things.
Space Force.
Yes.
The VA,
What?
Oh, that reaction of Biden when he went to Space Force.
because they didn't have proper health care. He was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care
Oh, he got the big joker. Biden got the big joker.
We've done, and I'll tell you something. Some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first
He don't
term,
got a poker face. Biden don't got a poker
One more
face.
time.
federal
Biden don't have a poker face.
judges, 300,
telling you, Biden
and
looks like he's
hopefully
about to do
3
Jim Mock.
great Supreme Court judges,
Yeah,
justices,
he's definitely about to hit him with the demon.
the likes of which very few people.
He's proud of it too. He's proud of himself. He's proud of
He's
himself.
acting like he did something to get the Supreme Court justice.
120
Yeah.
Like, I killed Ruth.
judges. That's like you just don't do that. 128
I am cancer. I murdered her, and I myself.
Said
philosophy.
there's some
I'd
Russian
say
tea.
if
What
you
could
left
go wrong.
us 128 openings,
Oh,
you
wow.
can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president.
From Chernobyl Farms.
At the end of this term,
After the
300
table.
judges. It's a record.
Yeah,
Both
300
records.
judges is a record. It's not a good record.
Elect you president.
Let me everybody, hold on.
President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent.
True.
I was vice president. We inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him
Right.
to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to
There you
even
go.
say anything to Putin about
Puppet.
I'm not a puppet. You're a puppet.
$1 billion.
And by the way,
Mr.
my
President,
son,
wait a
I feel
minute.
like we need
Mr.
to
President,
draw that meme
your
where
campaign
Back to the
agreed
Future
that
meme. What
both
do you mean
sides
this
would
is the
get
new
2-minute answers
What do you mean your scheme
uninterrupted.
is-
No, this has got to be the teacher.
Yeah.
Why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
he never keeps his word. Can you add back
No,
He's
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That
not
was a
telling
rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All
There
right.
you go.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy. by a tune of over.
Your son? What does your son have to do with Putin? What does his son have to do with Putin, boss?
You got less. You're in more trouble than you were before.
Chris.
In terms of being more violent.
Hey, what's wrong, Trump?
What was that?
America,
Like, okay, well, I guess.
President of the United States, it's
with the
on
memes
his
today.
watch. And with
Right
regard
now.
to divided, and
Can I reclaim my time?
You can make that a
we
meme.
talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers.
It should be Trump's prep coach.
He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star.
Yeah, we can do that one. Trump's prep coach in the back.
Not a loser.
Who's the debate coach in the back?
You're talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know,
Oh,
Bo.
here comes fisticuffs.
Let's do it. Tommy.
And he didn't have a job. President, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
Mess it
other
up. Don't mess it up.
My son,
Stick the landing. Stick the landing.
like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's
Oh, he hit with all of the big ones.
Why was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions?
All right,
of
he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right,
tens of
he
millions.
was given
That
tens
is
of
totally.
That line of attack throws Biden way off. He cannot recover.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather
Oh,
hear.
he hitting at the Suns. Ah, low blow, you bastard.
That's two of them, actually.
Call here.
$3.5 million
Okay,
from the
let's
mayor.
talk
Got a
about-
hit on Ivanka getting shit in China.
The board is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think-
Romney on that committee said it wasn't
tell you
worth
what, though,
taxpayers'
the
money. That
vice
report is written for
president
political
debate,
reasons.
Wow, wait, what's going on now? This is gotten
still on.
awkward.
They're still on
This has
his
gotten awkward.
Riley just spit his tea.
displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the
Yes,
fire
please. Yes, this is
I don't-
definitely getting awkward.
over your 4 years,
Trump is pulling you in his direction. Don't do it.
Climate Accord, you have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate
YouTube,
change? And
Pineapple
what will
Gaming
you
says
do in the
LMAO
next 4 years to confront it?
I want
That's
crystal
third,
clear water
you know that.
and air. I want
Oh,
beautiful.
E-Tweezy?
Yeah,
The
we're
lowest
streaming
part.
live to
If you
YouTube
look
right
at
now.
our numbers right
Oh,
now,
that's what's going on? What's up,
Yeah.
YouTube?
phenomenally.
What's up, YouTube?
Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. People are actually very happy
That
about
set
what
looks unnecessarily like
doing well. As far as the
professional.
fire is concerned,
like it should
you
just be
can forest
like a
management,
ring.
addition, everything else.
If I'm going to do the next one, I'm definitely going to need a
These
drink
dead
next time.
trees that are years old and they're like
Yep.
tinder, and
Coffee
leaves.
was a bad idea.
You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest
Next
burns
one is
down.
in a couple
You've
weeks.
got to have forest management.
Cigarette and the whole forest burns down.
About the science of climate change.
Well, we didn't rake them, right? We didn't
We
rake the
have to do
forests.
everything we can to have
Oh yeah, yeah. We didn't. The forest didn't get raked.
We're planting a
This dude is
big
such a moron.
tree project, and it's very
Do you
exciting. for a
believe
lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contribute to the global warming?
Things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests.
Oh, here it comes.
Here, you get the call. California's burning.
What
California.
is he talking about?
If you had forest management, good
Oh,
forest
you're right.
management,
Immaculate! Immaculate!
Smokey the Bear.
forest cities, they maintain their
Even you can.
Forest fire.
your country. It's a forest city. He said,
It's
sir,
a
we
forest city with explosive trees.
Yeah, like New York.
Explosive trees.
You can imagine. Just go up.
Humans need to stop moving to cities with explosive trees. That's the problem.
And all the governors are Democrats. Democrats.
Easy to walk along.
If you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power
Well,
Plan?
climate change was so 2019, but it actually is more important now.
dropping energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars.
Well, not really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. And you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have.
That's literally climate change. That's been the argument, sir. Yes. Yes.
If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored.
would take
The literal dollar amount by how
We're
cheap
doing a
the car
debate for Joe Biden. That's not good.
So,
Joe gotta hit these
we're
points.
going to see how that turns out. A lot of
Joe,
people
just let him defeat himself, Joe. Joe, I see it, but just don't stumble into anything stupid. He's doing your work for you. Just let him. Let him do your work for him. Let him talk. Just don't even interrupt him. He sounds like a moron.
Don't let him
incentives for electric cars. What they've done in
Just
California
don't
is
let him pull you back into that sun trap.
Yeah.
Joe,
We still gotta
Joe
hit,
should just
like, a
give his
line at
time
the
back
end.
to Wallace.
But I also want to ask you about proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk
Every
about
question
new
should-
limits,
Joe,
not
Joe should
abolishing,
be
but
like,
new
no further
limits on
questions, Your Honor.
fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035,
What are you talking about, Trump?
gases by
I think
2050.
you're watching
The president
a couple seconds ahead of us.
these things would tank
Is
the
it?
economy
Yeah.
across
Because
millions.
he's just talking about like he's a rambling. What are you talking
In
about?
fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy
Look at the cars. They come with so
as
much.
cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million.
They're doing that, though. They
Ooh,
give us
good.
that.
Spin it right back to infrastructure. That means jobs. Good job. Good job, Biden.
Significantly less gas and oil
like
because
that.
they will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage by having
Wait,
a
what's
new
that mean?
through that.
Yeah, like that. Like don't try to don't gun yourself
That
up with
means
numbers, man.
50,000 and above.
I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries.
Trump looks like a little pouting baby.
Oh, here comes
Stop.
Butthole lip.
That's what he did when Hillary died.
Brazilian socialist government. Huh?
Then you're going to have significant.
But you're a socialist.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that the fact that it's all true. And here's
He's
the deal.
talking about the Green New Deal.
Oh,
and it's
come
not
on,
2 billion
come
or
on,
20
come
billion,
on.
as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they
the
want to
Biden
rip down
plan.
Go for a
buildings
minute, and then you can go.
and rebuild the building.
No,
It's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that
ridiculous.
is not-
The two-car systems are out where they
Not
want
true.
to take out the cows too.
Not
That's
true.
not true either, right?
Not
this is
true.
this is a 100
Simply,
trillion.
look,
That's more money than our
is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're
not
going
the case.
All right, let
It
me
will destroy our
because I
country.
actually, wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes
say
upgrading 4
the US
million
can make
buildings,
100 trillion in
weatherizing
100
2 million homes over 4 years, building
You said that,
1.5
right?
million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
Let him finish,
What
sir.
number is that?
$100 billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get.
That's what they're already doing in New York and California, man.
Look how much
And they've been doing it already.
deal with. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's
at all.
what he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
I would make it up too.
in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China.
Vice president for 47 years.
Yeah, Russia.
Vice president for 47 years.
He made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is not my plan.
That's
the Green New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
not my plan.
You want to rebuild every.
If he knew
you have to-
anything
wait a minute,
about,
wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen,
He
anything
made a
about,
statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say-
tape. He said
Mr.
stupid bastards.
please,
He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that.
play
to
it.
him.
Stop.
Go ahead.
What is going on, man?
Answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but about this question of what it's going to cost.
the economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will
What did I
do.
miss,
The Green
guys? I
New
missed
Deal
something.
will pay for itself as we move forward.
Wallace said he couldn't understand Trump either.
Great polluting plants.
Could you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New
That's a capital cost that hasn't been.
No, I don't support the
In the
Green.
long term, it'll pay for itself.
Statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden.
lost the radical left.
I
Done.
support
Oh, you
the
don't?
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks? Because it'll not only be to
Man,
election,
it's only 5 weeks.
counting some ballots
Yo,
after election
the
day.
longest 5 weeks in our life, yo.
Be assured the
Yeah,
American
I mail
people
mine
that the
back
next
yesterday.
president will be the legitimate winner of this election. In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security director, and as well as the FBI director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is
I
that
wanna
there are
see
going to be
Trump will
millions of
mention
people
Ilhan
because of
Omar
COVID that are going to be
scam
voting
that-
by mail-in ballots like he
third
does,
time.
by the way.
Yeah, he's gonna mention the shit that happened in Pennsylvania.
Number one. Number two, we're going to make
Neither
sure
of us
that
prepared
those
enough
people
to
who
be able to
want to
handle what's going on in Pennsylvania.
are able to vote because enough poll watchers are
No,
there
not
to
just that,
make
that
sure they can socially
basically
distance.
what's going around
The
Twitter
polls are
with
open
Project
on
Veritas
time,
and-
and the polls stay
that'll
open
keep
until the
saying-
votes are
trying to
counted.
say that
And
Ilhan
this is all
Omar
about
is
trying to
paying people for their
dissuade
votes.
people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking
Wait, what was that?
legitimate. Show
Ilhan?
up and vote.
Yeah.
You
about
will
the Project
determine the
Veritas
outcome of
going
this
around
election.
Twitter
Vote,
saying
vote,
Ilhan
vote.
was paying
If you're able to
people
vote early in your
to
state,
harvest
vote
votes
early.
and-
If you're able to
and-
vote
and
in person,
pay them
vote in
to
person. Vote
sign
whatever way is the best
unfilled
way
out
for you,
ballots.
because he cannot stop you
Trump, we tweeted
from
it
being
last
able to
night. There
determine
was
the
some
outcome of
fuzzy
this
video
election.
that they
And in terms of
apparently
whether or
got
not when the votes are
of a-
counted
of
and
a
they're all
Ilhan
counted,
staffer
that will be accepted.
buying
If I
people's
win,
ballots.
that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way,
Freedom, yeah. man.
In fact, he says he's not sure what he's going to
Mail-in
do.
ballots was never an issue
It doesn't
before.
matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand. You have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? Or you get 4 more years of these lies.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup, after me spying on my campaign. They started
the mail-in ballots.
even before I won. From the day I came down the escalator with our first lady,
I thought we were talking about mail-in ballots.
disgrace to our
I was waiting for him to tell Biden about
He's
it.
got axes to grind. That's all he wants to
We've
talk
caught them
about.
all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition.
What is going on?
It's a disaster. A solicited ballot. Okay.
Is Trump losing it?
Okay. You're soliciting. You're asking. They send it back. You send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump. Just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste basket. They're being sent all over the place.
What?
They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing,
Unless he wins, then
November
it's
3rd.
Unless he wins, then everything is fair.
I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened
Yo, the jig, he's trying to set the jig up.
in other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been now.
Okay.
We have major states with that.
Sir,
All run by
2 minutes is
Democrats.
2 minutes.
All run by
You're-
Democrats. It's
President
a,
Trump,
it's a rigged
you're going to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think, well, I hope we don't need that
Ballots?
of the election itself.
They're
But
going to
for-
be busy, 9 people looking at all the
because
ballots.
What's happening is incredible. I
Yeah,
just
a billion ballots.
1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But what are
They
you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
There
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now.
do
What are
is
you
you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and that's
I'm not-
okay,
I know
or
your
you go and
complaint. I'm
vote.
asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and
received-
vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used to.
about the
in the
Unless you're in Republican
Either
district,
do
and then they're
this, a solicited
don't want you to
ballot.
vote.
You're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no-
This
What
is
is he? Wow.
not going to end.
Wow.
No
This is
evidence of
not
that.
going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden-
5 states
In fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid.
Postmarked by election day.
I want to continue with you on
I
this,
love that.
Vice President Biden. because
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes
in
a
fact,
statement
no,
like that.
excuse me.
I think he's right. That's why
President
it's
Biden-
He's right. But no, but Trump is going to try to twist it.
Voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this, because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is, you should be able to, if it's before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot. Mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
No. When you have 80 million ballots,
gentlemen, I have a final.
So confusing.
you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right.
been
So now,
fraud,
mail service delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen. And the final question is: in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law. 8 states from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president is.
Could be years.
First you, sir,
Could be years.
Neither of you will interrupt
Does
the
he
other.
realize he can't go back in if it's not decided?
To stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest, and will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully.
No.
Yo, he is literally. Wow.
He's doing it.
You know, today there was a
He's
big
doing it. He
Philadelphia.
is doing it.
They're called poll watchers. They're very safe, very nice.
Wow, he's really doing it on that. Wow.
There's bad things happen in Philadelphia.
Trump supporters should go watch people.
I am urging
Wow.
my people. I hope it's
This
going
is
to be
crazy.
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along.
Wow.
He's giving himself as an out.
People to take to the
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do
They're
about that?
they're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They
2
all
days
had.
ago. That's when they did it. That's when they found it.
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters
I hate him.
the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory?
Wallace doesn't even call him out on it.
Poll watchers.
Why is Wallace not calling him out?
They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since at the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
You had an opportunity to respond.
Look at Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an
fact,
honest ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump,
You guys are nuts.
Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debate, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah In Salt Lake City, the two vice presidential
All
nominees,
right, Mike, you can turn it down now.
Senator Kamala Harris,
When is that one?
9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
All right, that I cannot believe he did not call him out on the poll watchers.
I cannot believe that. Like, am I over? I'm thinking like, oh, well, maybe I'm overreacting to him. Literally calling.
Well,
Wow.
he also didn't call him out on basically telling the Proud Boys to stand by instead of to
Wow.
stand
Yep.
down.
Yeah,
Go
that was
home.
kind of ridiculous.
He's like, "Will you tell white supremacists? What do you want me to call them? What do you want me to call
them? What are their names?
What are the? I don't know. I have nothing to know about them." It was bad. It was as bad as I expected it to be, and I still feel
Yeah,
bad.
it was pretty much along the lines of the fuckery that I expected, though.
And Joe Biden cannot handle having his son's name called out, and Trump hit him with that like 3 times, and he gets so flustered, and he just
But I'll say this though, I think like the American people will understand that. Like
Yeah,
I don't think it's a huge strike against him. Actually, I'm giving this debate squarely to Biden.
only because just Trump can't literally talk about a single topic without either fake numbers or just
12 rounds.
yelling at Joe
And
Biden.
now,
9-3 Trump.
and the sensationalism is gone, so people are actually paying attention now. Like, yo, like the BS that you're putting out, like it's like, okay, like more people are realizing it's BS. Like it's just not, it's not having the same punch. I feel like his debate against Hillary was a little bit more like punchy.
Well, I think the Hillary debate, Hillary went straight for her thing. She did a great job of that. But Trump could just say things that he was going to do, and there was no history to
There's no
hold
history.
against him. Now, when he says, I'm gonna fix healthcare, people are like,
like still
when?
Like,
I'm gonna release my tax returns. Dude, it's been 3.5 years. When?
like when?
Right. That was the only thing. Joe could have sat there and just went, when? When? Like,
I actually think that Joe could have done a little bit more shutting the fuck up. Like, Trump was doing a perfectly decent job of like killing himself.
Yeah.
I cannot believe. I really don't understand how that whole poll watchers joint is not getting.
That's huge.
Like that has to get jumped on. Like somebody has
to go and watch these polls. Like you can't do that.
no.
Dude, on like this is your national debate? Are you serious?
So, okay. So what is your biggest takeaway from this?
He's saying that his people will go out there and watch people.
James, what's your biggest takeaway from this debate?
I think Trump probably in his pregame was thinking like, I'm gonna attack this dude, I'm gonna attack this dude, I'm gonna attack this dude, I'm gonna walk away with a decisive victory. And I think Biden was more like, I'm gonna be conservative. I'm not gonna mention Black Lives Matter. I'm not gonna mention certain things that will really rank up people who are moderate or independent.
Mm-hmm.
But halfway through, I think Biden just kind of like, all right, I gotta start. Like when he told him shut up, whatever it was, you see he called himself as like, I didn't mean to say that. You know,
like
it was understandable.
He makes you respond to him like a little kid. Like
yeah.
But on Trump's point of view, as I don't think he took anything away. I think he thought he did a great job. Like you know. He hit all the question marks. He probably thought Chris Wallace was a little. I bet you right now he's like, Chris Wallace was a little unfair. He gave Joe all this time.
He wasn't being fair. He wasn't being fair.
Fact check me. I thought there was no fact check. How come you kept trying to fact check me? So I'm pretty sure the takeaway. I give it 9-3 Biden, which I thought wouldn't be that high. I thought Biden would stutter a lot. He would,
He did, but I think there was so much jabber from Trump. It was.
Dude. I give my hat. I actually tip my hat to Biden, yo. Like, that has to be the most frustrating shit on the planet.
Freaking Wallace was frustrated. Wallace dropped the
Wow,
couple of bombs
he had
there.
Wallace frustrated.
Like, sir,
like that.
agree to these ground rules, sir, please.
Right. All right,
Yeah,
Mike, what's your takeaway, Mike?
Yeah, so okay, so first of all, this reminded me. I thought Joe did an okay job. It wasn't his best performance. It reminded me of the 2012 first Obama Romney debate where Obama didn't do so well either. I don't know if you guys
Ooh,
remember that debate.
Yeah, I
I
remember
felt
that.
like
But
I felt
Obama
like
was no
Obama
energy,
did
though.
worse.
Yeah, Obama
No,
was
but I
no
feel like
Yeah,
Obama.
Obama did do worse,
I feel like Obama did
but
worse.
that's what this
Yeah, Obama
reminded me
looked
of. It
sleepy
wasn't
that one.
what? What's that?
Obama looked sleepy in that debate.
Yeah, but I think so because it was Biden's first time going head to head against Trump. You know, you can tell somebody this is how he is. You see how he is, but until you get on that stage and he won't shut his mouth and says stupid things, it's kind of hard, I think, to know how to react to like all the nonsense. You know what I mean? So I'm going to give him
Right.
credit for that. That he held his own as best he could, and I'm hoping that for the next one, he's now that he knows, because I think Hillary did the same thing too. The first round, it was kind of like the same thing for her. She was like, "What in the holy hell is this nonsense?" Right? But now, then she knew, and she
I
kind
don't even think he was this nonsense.
no,
He was a lot straighter uh, during the Hillary debates. He's told stupid lies and fake numbers and all that, but he
yeah,
was not this punchy,
right.
defensive. Like he's
And
really defensive.
so the only thing I'm going to add is, his base isn't going to care anyway,
Oh no. There's
and
like a 5% of people that this is after.
and I hope the independents are seeing through the bullshit. And I'm warning you guys that this is far from over for the election. That Trump
Oh
can
yeah.
still win, right? So
I honestly thought watching the Hillary debates that she had so ground him into the ground.
yeah.
I was like, there's no way anybody could vote for him after this. And then, my
Are you
surprise.
kidding? I thought it was over when the Access Hollywood tape came out.
Oh yeah.
I thought he
Little
was
did
done.
we know.
Yeah.
All right, Keith, what's your takeaway here?
That was, I mean, I feel like to call it a debate is actually kind of disrespectful to the institution of debate.
Yeah.
Man, I'm sorry Biden had to go through that.
Mm.
And in hindsight, I'm definitely sorry that Hillary had to waste her time with a moron like that too. Like dude, Trump isn't. He's a moron. Like, and he's a child. He makes you want to be a better person.
Yeah. Sad thing is though, his base loves him for that, right?
Yeah, no,
He's
absolutely.
never like
love
a tough guy
for
out
that.
there. Tough guy.
Yeah.
But it's not even tough though. Like that's
No,
the
it's
thing.
not tough. It's just
It-
It's
it's-
argumentative.
yeah.
It's not tough. It's
Yeah,
argumentative.
it's ignorantly confrontational. It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
confrontational.
like
that's the word.
his base. You're right. That's yeah, definitely.
yeah.
But I did, and I know right now he's patting himself on the back, and like
Yeah.
he's got a bunch of yes men around him telling him like, "Oh, you murdered him. It was great. Like, oh, bars.
Yeah.
Dude, that sucked. And that was horrible. And if he doesn't lose in a huge ass landslide, I'm so disappointed in America.
I'm already disappointed
I'm mad
in
that
America.
43% of America actually why is this even a fight?
Mhm.
I'm seeing the quick CNN here with who's that dude, the Republican that ran back in 2016, but he works for CNN. And he's like, the one thing that he found that he disapproved of was Trump didn't lay out his plan for the next 4 years. I'm like, that's the only thing that
That's the only thing.
They didn't even the whole Republican Party didn't even present a plan.
Yeah.
When they nominated him, and he's thinking Trump was going to go on stage and present a plan. So, I guess for me, what my takeaway is that number one, Biden tried to talk to the camera when he needed to center himself, when they were getting too argumentative. He would turn to the camera and say something to the American people.
I like that.
Which is a good tactic.
Yeah.
Trump was only talking to Biden. He only cared about Biden
argued against the moderator.
or the moderate. Right. He was never talking to the people. So that's a good thing for Biden. But he did get flustered. He doesn't have enough of a debate stance to be able to be quick on his feet and switch topics and throw numbers and land facts. Like, he really has some presets that he does well with. He talks in a great empathetic way, but like when they asked him about Trump being racist, he's like, well, and against some Irish Catholics like me, we are really having a trouble with this guy.
Wrong demographic there, buddy.
He never said Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
He didn't say like, what I want to
The
do,
response was terrible.
what will help, the American cities is to, hold people accountable. Like, he started talking about holding people accountable, but he was the stupid bad apples crap and whatever. But he is running.
It's the standard line when
it's the running to the
offend,
running to the center. I get what he's doing,
right.
But
he's trying to get those mid-swing states.
Yeah, I think he really could have held Trump's feet to the fire on there's a few things Trump really just opened himself out to be destroyed on. The whole white power or the Proud Boys thing really could have been nailed. He brought up the losing the suburbs again, and Biden sort of started going there, but he could never really nail Trump.
Even bigger picture, the economy and taxes. The economy is something, because he kept touting how the best recovery, and there's numbers out there now. Wall Street, they're all presenting numbers of how this economy has been the worst in administrations. Like, people have to see their pocketbooks get tied into whoever they're voting for. Not everyone's going to see the race part. Let's be honest.
Well, and Trump brings up Wall Street.
It's not.
Yeah, Trump brings up the stock market, and Biden didn't go, it doesn't matter what the stock market does. What's regular people's wallets like?
Exactly.
Like I said, Biden has some things he's good at doing, and he's empathetic about doing, and he's kind of standard politician that way. But even Hillary, who is a much better debater, could not hold his feet to the fire. I think it's almost an impossibility.
This is why actually I don't like. I like the number you gave. Like you said 9-3 Biden, James.
Yeah.
I think I could ride with that too. And the reason being is like, this is not like, even these debates, Trump is very desperate. So he's actually like the cat being backed into the corner. Dude, I would totally be committed to letting him be himself. Like, because Biden is not, like you said, Chris, Biden is not sharp. Like, he doesn't have the mental acuity right now to really be able to like jump on those moments and like shoot the facts out and say these details. And like you're saying, like he really needs to just like be able to direct Trump down a path and let Trump do Trump.
Yeah, remember?
Because I feel like he's beating himself right now.
Remember what I said during the convention, how Biden was like a big hug, like a big warm hug? Biden needs to be that guy and let
You mean the one on the back of your neck?
Yeah, still feels good. I don't mind.
It still feels good. Let them complain if they want.
Right.
They know they liked it.
But Biden needs to be that guy. Biden needs to be that guy, and Trump needs to be Trump. And then, you know what I mean? I don't want Biden to be the guy that wants to try to explain what Trump is. Because
he's not going to do a good job at it.
Exactly. That's the point. Yeah,
and definitely not as good as a job as Trump is doing showing it.
Right.
But I think he's got to lead it. It's almost like counterpunching, right? He's got to lead it with a topic saying, "This is what my plan for the COVID response will do better than Trump." And then that like excite Trump to do what? Talk about, wait a minute, all the best doctors in the world said I'm doing that.
Exactly. So like let him talk. Go ahead and let him rock. Yeah.
There's a few things where you can't just let him spout fake numbers though. You
Mm.
can't let him say in 4 weeks there will be a cure,
Vaccine.
right? You have to be able to let him go and then go, well, that's fake. Everybody knows
Exactly.
that's fake. It doesn't matter what numbers you spout. We're going to listen to the scientists. And then let him go off on that tangent, but make sure you're pointing out, like, you can't just call him a liar. You have to give
but that's my point about the
a
big hug.
touch of context to it.
The big hug is common sense and reason, right?
Right, but
And not just saying he's
like
wrong because
the whole
it's
race
numbers.
thing, like
Yeah.
Trump got to go second, and Trump just threw out crazy, stupid, unearned facts.
Yeah.
But then Wallace just moved on, and those are just the last thing in your ears. And so centrists who don't know, or right leaners who don't know any better will be like, yeah, law and order, I don't want that happen in my city, kind of crap. Whereas you need to be able to tweak, let him go crazy, but you have to be able to tweak the points.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Wallace himself said, by the way, crime has been increasing in the same red districts by red governors and red mayors too.
Right,
Just as
and
equal.
There was no follow through.
Biden didn't follow up on that.
So, all right, I think overall you're right, James. I don't think it was a great debate. I think Biden's a winner by default, but just because he was more sane, more empathetic, more directed to the people. But it's just hard to.
Because he was the only one there
child.
to debate.
Right.
Of course he won. He won by default. Like, it was a one-sided game.
But I take Michael's point that this is not over. It's not so far. I would like to see polls after this, really good polls, like really.
Oh,
really
yeah, like, but I need some uncompromised, like, for real, nonpartisan polls.
Mm.
And
Because I really tend to not trust them until we get this close to the election.
Yeah. So just a heads up, the vice presidential debate, which I'm looking forward to, Harris and Pence.
That's
will
the
be
one.
more interesting.
Now you're talking about two cogent minds. Let's do it. Oh, please come on.
Next
Kamala's
Wednesday,
gonna eat him alive.
Yeah,
but next Wednesday is going to be moderated by USA Today and takes place in Salt Lake City.
Do you remember that Tim Kaine debate?
Yeah.
That like the worst, boring, and like I need Kamala to hold Pence's feet to the fire.
Tim Kaine was against
Clinton's VP pick.
But who was he?
He's a senator.
Pence. He was against Pence.
Oh yeah, against Pence.
Oh yeah, Pence.
Remember two white guys with white hair sitting next to each other with like a white background? Yeah. It was a mayonnaise like.
I had to
fest on
adjust my
screen.
contrast just to see them.
We thought Sarah Palin was the most dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Remember those days?
Yeah, but as soon as she started talking about books, she was just everybody knew what she was.
Their plan would have worked. Like, all she had to do was just be a little bit more astute. Like, and their plan would have worked. Like, people would have ate that up. They didn't vet her out to realize she was an idiot.
But yeah, what I remember about the Tim Kaine and Pence debate was that Pence just kept denying things that Trump was doing or saying, and nobody held him down to backing up claims. And I don't think he's going to get away with that this time.
Yeah,
I mean, that guy has basically disappeared in the last 2 years.
He's been invisible. But now he's going to have to answer questions about stuff that Trump, like their administration did. So, I'm way more interested in the actual debate of the vice presidential debate.
Oh yeah,
this is next Wednesday, Mike.
Next Wednesday. I don't have a time yet. Probably around the same time though.
It'll probably be around the same time.
Yeah, because
they're gonna be spitting bars.
Yeah.
Or at least one of them.
It's gonna be one of the what do you call them again on Instagram? Versus.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you guys for making this watchable, because man, if I was just sitting in watching this thing, I would.
Oh man, I'd be streaming on my TV. So. Oh well.
I
Yeah,
just
thanks for
need-
joining, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
And
right, guys. I think.
Uh,
I think.
so we
I think
will. I think we're gonna be live next week for the vice president debate, right?
I think so too. I
Oh,
think it
we
was
We're
fun.
still
better.
live on YouTube, by the way. We're still live.
You said, oh, are we? Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, we're
cool.
still live. We're wrapping
Bye, YouTube.
up.
Bye, YouTube.
Don't get in trouble. We're still live. Shit, put that away.
Put that away.
So, is this our show for the week? Do we want to just make this our show for the
Still
week?
says live on YouTube, Mike.
I'm
Yeah.